Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith, and today we're going to be talking about the highest paying trade jobs that no one is talking about in 2024. So when you go online, we normally see a lot of side hustles and we normally see a lot of gig work where people are showing you how to make money online. And while I do agree that making money online with digital products and services is something that is definitely needed, there's also a great opportunity now with people trying to look for easy ways to make money online where trade jobs are being neglected. So the usual trade jobs that we're familiar with are, plumbers, journeymen, HVAC. It's usually like the exact same ones over and over. But today I want to talk to you about two hidden trades that I felt like no one is talking about right now and that are making a lot of money. And I'm going to also give you examples of individuals that are making this business actually, because they're trade jobs, but they've actually scaled them up to being trade businesses and they're making a lot of money doing this. So let's jump right into it. And then we're going to talk about these hidden jobs that maybe you can find some inspiration from, and maybe you can find a trade that you would like to do and scale that into a profitable business. So let's start with trades. A lot of us may not be familiar with trades. For my younger audience, I have a demographic of people who are older. You guys are familiar with all those trades. Trades are important because they are jobs that will not go away. Yes, we have automation. Yes, we have AI. We have a lot of new technology that's coming out, but there are a few jobs that are not going to go away. For example, electricians. You're always going to need an electrician. You're always going to need a plumber. You're always going to need certain individuals to do certain things as long as there are people here on this planet that exist. You're going to need certain people to handle certain things, at least for the foreseeable future. All right. So this is how I would define trades. Trade jobs, they generally refer to any job where duties are required, advanced skills and training gained through experience. So there are a lot of trade schools that you can take a look at. A lot of people who are in these trades, either there was a family oriented skill that was passed down maybe from a parent or grandparent to children where they acquired these skills, carpentry skills, things like that. But they're things where you have to actually go out and do these things in order to become really good and skilled at them. And there are trade schools, but what I'm really referring to are the people who do these things and learn these things, usually from a family business or, passed down through generations. Now, some of these trades, at least the two that we're going to talk about, they do require licenses, and you may have to get certain certifications in order to do these. So these aren't really things that you can just jump into right away, but they are things that I would consider, or at least maybe you can potentially be inspired to do something to the effect of these trades, and you can see how you can scale this into a profitable business. So two hidden jobs that we're going to talk about. Let's start with number one. And it's something that I would say you've probably seen around town. You've probably seen it in your area, but you never actually thought about it. It's hiding in plain sight. So that is going to be 24-hour junk removal services. I'm going to give you an example of how I actually came across this. I was trying to do a move at the beginning of the year, or right at the end, or December or January of 2024. There were things inside of the house that were just left, and we waited till the last minute to try to get this stuff out, unfortunately. When I got back there, I'm thinking it's only going to be a few boxes. It's bed frames, air hockey table, stuff for kids, like dressers and wood dressers. The point is, it was a lot of stuff. So what I did was I called a 24-hour junk removal service. They came out. They gave me an estimate. It was going to be around $1,000, but they gave me a holiday price. It was $750. It was a gentleman and his wife, and they helped clear out that house in about an hour, hour and a half. It was very quick, but it was a lot of work. And I could tell that they had been doing this for a very long time, because it did require a lot of skill to take this stuff, break it down outside, dispose of it, and then they were going to also have to dump that. They were also really good at collecting any materials that they thought could potentially be hazardous, and disposing of those as well. So I called a couple of places in order to get some information for this video. I also looked at a national average, and I also found an example of an individual who is doing this currently to date. So we're going to get into some information here. So for 24-hour junk removal, there are business requirements in order for you to do this. I don't want to have you think that for this particular trade that this is something that you can just start doing right off the bat. It does require some technical skill in order to operate the truck, dispose of all of these items, and then you're also going to need a few different licenses. This may vary by state, and for some states, when I was doing research, they may not even allow you to do junk removal. So you want to bear that in mind if this is something that you choose to pursue. But you need a business license, a waste management license, a hazardous waste handling license, and you need a dumpster license. So again, these certifications that you need, these licenses that you need, they will vary by state if you're able to actually do it in your state. I have not personally done this myself. Again, my first experience with this just happened within the last 7-8 months, right? Or 7-6 months. I don't know the business, but when I was doing research on this particular trade, I found this individual. His name is Sky Lane. Sky has a YouTube channel right now. It's Junk Success and Beginner to Six Figures. He actually shows on his channel how he was able to scale this business to, I believe, around $250,000 in gross income. So I've never met this gentleman. I don't know him, but if you guys are interested in this, my recommendation is to go to his channel and watch his videos. He will show you step by step how to start the business, give you an idea of requirements, and give you a general idea of how successful this business can be from his experience. And once again, I don't know him. I haven't reached out to him personally. If you watch his videos, you enjoy that, please leave a comment, and subscribe to his content, because from what I watched, he is, very, very good at his job, and he's definitely very business oriented when it comes to this particular trade. Now, from the research that I did, I called to 8 different places. Some of these were businesses, and then some of them I actually found that were private. So I'd have to look them up through apps and job services. But the ones that I would say that did answer, a few of them I called, they didn't even pick up. Some of the other ones that I called and talked to the receptionist, they were already booked out. And some of the ones that were more independent, where it was like maybe a 1 or 2 man operation, they were the 24-hour junk removal, because they were able to take advantage of the different time frames and being available, as soon as possible. So these are the different prices that I found for pickup services. They range between $700 to $1,000 on average, which kind of was the exact same range that I had to pay for the same type of service. Now, there were other additional extra services that could have been tacked on. For example, for some of them, if they came same day, you would pay an additional $200. I would say it's like $100 to even $300. It just varied by the amount of work that had to be done. If you had to travel over a certain distance or a certain mileage, there was an upcharge for that. There was also an after-hour services, even for the ones that were 24 hours. So with these additional services that were tacked on, this could actually get to pretty high for one individual. But when people are moving, these numbers aren't too crazy, or when they're trying to just get rid of junk cleaning, it's not too abnormal. So looking at the numbers, it took them about 90 to 120 minutes. When I called and got information, this seemed to be about the range that it would take in order to get this done. And it seemed to be like a 1 to 2 man job, depending on the size. For example, if it was going to be a room, if it was going to be a house, it just depended on how much stuff needed to be removed. Now, the average that I got was about 7 services per day, and that was per truck. So there were some people who, again, they were doing this as a 1 to 2 man operation. And then there were services that had multiple trucks where they can get to you, but a lot of them were also booked out a couple of days. So they had a lot of backed up services. And of course, with people who could take advantage of that, the 24-hour junk removal was great for a 1 to 2 man operation who was, just getting started. So I went ahead, got a national average, and I crunched some numbers. All right, let's take a look at the numbers that we got. Now, I did numbers based on the average truck revenue, how much one individual truck could potentially do for this type of trade. So the average that I saw for someone to come out and to perform this service was around $850. Okay, the services per day, since I was using the 24-hour junk removal, I just said 7 days. Of course, as you start to grow this business and scale it, if you have more trucks and you have more individuals, then you can kind of adjust the services per day. But 7 days is what I chose to do for this example. If you do $850 on average, and then you're doing, again, 7 services per day, you're looking at $5,950 in weekly sales. Now, monthly sales in total, we're looking at $23,800. Now, if we take the $23,800 and we multiply that by 12, we're looking at $285,600 that you can potentially make, and that's going to be gross annual sales. Now, just for if we're looking to scale, right, our business, if you have 4 trucks, the annual sales revenue would be about $1,142,400. Okay, that is a ridiculously high number, but looking at a couple of averages, this seems to be the case with this particular business. This is actually a doable thing. Now, of course, this will vary based on your state, based on where you live, based on the demand, but that's something you would want to do prior with your research to figure out if this is something that you can see that yourself doing. But also with our previous videos that we have, how you can get business credit. You can get a truck, especially if it weighs more than 6,000 pounds, in your area. And for, the beginning of this thing, you can pull your dumpster with your truck. And then you, of course, would want to get a relationship with your local dump. And then you'd also want to get those licenses that are required in order to do this. Again, it is a trade, so it is a skill that you would need to learn. But seeing how you can scale this particular type of business, I think it's worth actually doing. I think it's a really amazing trade that you can get into. Now, I wanted to talk about some expenses, the average truck cost. And I got some numbers again from the national average. Now, trash disposal, there is a fee for that. There's going to be fuel cost fees, of course. There's going to be maintenance costs and other expenses. All right. Now, when I added up all of the potential cost and looked at what it could be on a monthly average, and I wasn't trying to be modest, I was trying to go for, realistic numbers. I would say for 4 trucks, you'd be looking at around $472,800 in expenses that you will probably run into. And you may have other things, insurance, costs, things of that nature. So I definitely wanted to be high with this number because we want to be as realistic as possible. But again, I'm looking at 4 trucks for an individual. I'm thinking it might end up being like $100,000 that you may have in potential cost. So with our net income of $1,142,400 minus $472,800, and this is the example with the 4 trucks, keep in mind, you could be looking at $669,600 in potential profit. That is a really amazing number that you can potentially scale up to if you were looking to take your trade, maybe start out as an individual and then scale it into a business. And then, of course, even with that number, if you have 4 trucks, you also want to break down how much you're going to be paying, employees, how much you're going to be, maybe paying out for insurances, things like that. So take home, you may be only doing $200,000, potentially something of that nature. And then, of course, you'd have to look at what you're going to pay in taxes. But there are a lot of expenses that you can actually use as tax write-offs when it comes to this particular business, as far as fuel, mileage, equipment that you buy. There's a lot of different things. For that, I would say that you would want to consult a tax professional. But the upside potential for this business and the scalability is amazing. And it is a trade that I feel like as long as there are people existing and we will continue to consume things, then we will continue to create waste, and then we will have junk, and then we'll need someone to eventually come take this away. Now, again, these numbers are fictitious. I don't know this business. Please refer to Mr. Lane's channel. I think he's doing phenomenal work. I highly recommend. I'm going to put that information in the description. If you are even remotely interested, check out his channel. He goes into great detail about this. And of course, I'm just looking at it as, I'm the outside looking in. I don't know the ins and outs of the operation exactly as someone in his position would know it. So if I missed anything, if I'm overlooking anything, I apologize. These are definitely rough estimates, but I just want to give you a general idea of, even if this wasn't something you wanted to do, if you were to get business credit and you were to leverage it and you were looking to start a business, look at your trades and look at the trades that are viably needed for our economy, and see how you can turn that into a business and you can scale it. All right. So let's actually move on. We're going to talk about hidden job number 2. Okay. And this is also another one that, again, I feel like it's hiding in plain sight. We see it every day, but I don't think that we ever really pay attention to what's going on, or we may not actually think about how valuable this actually is. So number 2, we have landscaping, a landscaping trade. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, that it seems obvious, right? Oh, landscaping, of course. But for me personally, I've never actually thought about it. But here's a, funny story. My fiance, she always complains about the landscaping in front of her house, and it's always like a bunch of, trash that gets blown to where her house is. It's in like a corner, right? So she'll, want to go out there, pick it up and all of that. And then I'm like, oh, I could go out there and pick it up. But I never do. I could never do a good job at this stuff. And she was looking for someone to do the landscaping. I was looking at the landscaping prices for like simple stuff. Oh, it's just a little bush or trim here, little cut that. Man, them prices were so high. I was like, well, we could do it ourselves, but eventually, just have to hire somebody to actually do it. So it is a service that, oddly enough, you don't really think about, but it is something that's actually needed. I mean, the closest thing I've ever got to landscaping is Saturday mornings. My grandma would give us $20 to pick the weed and mow the lawn and, do all that kind of stuff out in the yard. So it isn't something that I really thought about. But let's talk about exactly the requirements that it takes to do this trade. Because again, this is a skill. It's not something that I would say you can just jump into right away. These, like the people who are really good at landscaping, this is an art. And you don't really think too much about it. But for them to do what they do with the precision that they're doing it, it's actually amazing. It's amazing, and it is a skill. It's definitely a skill. So you will need a business license. You will need a landscaping license. You will need landscaper insurance. And if there's anyone who is actually in this trade currently, I'm probably missing some things. So if you know of additional things that will be needed in order to do this, please drop a comment and, let us know what else is needed to do this profession. Because it's not as simple as just jumping into it, but I do think that it is a viable trade that you should be interested in. And as before, the requirements vary by state. It'll depend what state that you're in, what you actually need. So you'll definitely want to check that out. Do your due diligence, get on Google and say landscaping job requirements in the state of, and you'll definitely want to take a look at that, because again, I'm not going to catch everything since I don't know this business as well as someone who's actually doing it, which brings us to this. This young man's name is Chase Grant, and he has a business called Grow. I suggest that you check out his YouTube channel. For his YouTube channel, he's showing you how he's made $500,000 as a 22-year-old with his lawn care business. I watched a few of his videos while also doing research for this one. And again, like, it's amazing. I think it's so, like, it's just great that there are young people out here doing these types of jobs and they're scaling them. Like, most of the time, for what we see on the internet, and even me, I've been one of those people where I hyper focused on things that you could do online, even YouTube, things like that. But there are a lot of different trades that are just hidden in plain sight that we overlook. And this man can show you step by step how to do that. So again, if I miss anything, please, I recommend that you check out his channel. And again, I've never talked to him before, but go, like, comment, subscribe, because he's doing good work. Now, landscaping services. Again, I did some research. I called a few landscapers, but there also were a lot of freelance workers. So it was kind of hard to gauge exactly what the prices were. So I went with some of the information that I got, and then I went with some of the research. I feel like the prices that you get are based on the experience of the person doing the landscaping. So there's a bunch of different services: landscape design, land grading, mulching, planting flower beds, planting trees and bushes. There's also hardscaping, fire pits, fencing, ponds, things of that nature. And that's a totally different thing. So you guys it's just so many different ways that you can actually do this. So this is the average prices that I got. For landscape and design, it depends on how many acres, the size, but you can do anywhere between $2,200 and $6,180. Land grading can be $100 to $3,400. Mulching can be $17 to $68 per cubic yard. And planting flower beds could be $650 to $3,000. Planting trees and bushes can be $25 to $3,000 per tree or bush. It depends on the size. Now, again, this also varies by the state that you're in. If you're in a place that snows a lot, you may be looking at doing something different. In this particular case, maybe something that's involved in the snow. You kind of have to tailor this to your area. If you're in the South, I was born in Louisiana, New Orleans. That's where I'm from. I'm used to seeing lots of grass, taking care of your lawn. That's a normal thing. And here in Vegas, I'd see them planting a lot of trees because it's a desert. And there is a lot of landscaping that actually goes on here because there's so many communities, there's so many apartment complexes, there's so many hotels, there's a bunch of different places that need good landscaping. So again, these prices can fluctuate. It all depends on your area. And then, of course, you'd want to do your research and then Google all the requirements and then look at the demand for this in your particular area. Now, the average landscaping cost in 2024 from the research that I did was around $12,825. That was for the year. Now, that doesn't include any businesses or institutions. I'm just talking about personal lawn care for an individual. The typical price ranged from $4,000 to $20,317. That's how I got the average. You would take the lowest amount, highest amount, and divide it by 2, which would give you what the average could be. On the extreme low end, it could be $2,000. And then on the extreme high end, it could be $38,333. Again, all these numbers are based on a lot of other factors. So that's why we're just going with ranges right now. Now, here's what I came up with. If you took the average, $12,825, you divided that by 12, that would equal $1,068.75 a month. Now, if you did 3 services per day, and that would be 5 days per week, you would end up around 60 services in a month. This can vary, of course. In some people, you have repeat customers where maybe you attend to their particular lawn or their particular landscaping twice a month, right? So if you took that monthly average for an individual, which would be around like $534 every 2 weeks. But if you took that total and you had 60 services done, you're looking at $64,125 per month. That would give you an annual revenue for the year at $769,500. So that is amazing. Now, of course, I wanted to look at some average landscaping expenses in 2024. I did some startup cost estimates and ranges, business and registration and licensing somewhere between $100 and $800. Might be more for that. Insurance as needed. And of course, you want to think about landscaping equipment. There's probably going to be materials that you might need. And I guess it depends on if you're charging the client for that or if you're bringing that, fertilizing, your tools, things of that nature. Again, this can all vary. But vehicle and trailer, if you're renting out a vehicle, and then of course the gas and the fuel that it costs to maintain, move all of this material. I would say that the total cost that you're potentially looking at is $299,400. And again, these are all rough estimates of what that could potentially cost you. So if we have a gross revenue of $769,500, and then you also have $229,400 in potential costs, you're looking at $540,100 that you could potentially make in revenue. Of course, that doesn't include taxes. That doesn't include anything else, but then potentially there are tax write-offs. Again, go to Mr. Grant's YouTube channel for specific details if you want very, very specific details, because unfortunately, since I'm not doing it myself, I don't have the hard numbers to show you, but there are individuals that you can look to as an example of what to do. And these are definitely 2 trades that I believe will always be in demand and that you can make a lot of money just from doing it. Freelance work, you can make a decent amount of money. But if you scale it to a business, I think you can make a lot of money. And then eventually you can hire employees and then you can just oversee everything else. Now, as I was doing research for this video, there were other trades that I thought could also potentially be utilized. For example, being a mobile locksmith. I had a time where I was on a date with a girl Date went great. We went for sushi. For whatever reason, on the way back to my car, I lost my key. Horrible. The girl had to call her mom to come and get her. I had to give her mom gas money. I had to then call a locksmith, wait there for 3 hours. Locksmith came out there. He had a computer, boop, 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 recoded my key, gave me a spare key. It cost me $750. I went back home, took off my clothes. My key fell on the ground, and the girl never called me back. Horrible, right? But mobile locksmith, I could tell you I needed that guy that night. Wish he was a little bit faster. Pressure washing, that's something that you never thought about, but it was a business that I was like, oh, this is scalable. Again, these things will vary by where you live at. Pest control is also one that you can look at, and then any type of carpentry work. And then, of course, we know all the other trades, that the common ones. But the idea of this video was basically to just give you an idea of potential trades that you can look at and that you can start, and then you can scale them into a viable business that makes a lot of money. And making money online and trying to do side hustles and all that isn't the only way that you can make a living. There are definitely things that people are not talking about. And if you are into a trade right now, cart detailing, anything like that, maybe even something other than the obvious ones, like, of course, plumbers, electricians, certain contractors that may do like construction work. If you're into other ones, please drop a trade into the comments. And especially if you have a YouTube channel where you have a trade, I would like to look at more people's trades. Please drop it into the comment section so that I could take a look at it. I would love to do more things like this because there are plenty of jobs that we could do with our hands, and trade jobs that are definitely being overlooked right now while everyone's trying to just make easy money online. And I myself am definitely one of those people who have fallen into that. So, I do hold myself to that as well. So let me know. I'm very, very interested to take a look at, those types of additional trade jobs. And if you did enjoy this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so I can do more videos like this for you. And for the two gentlemen that I mentioned in this video, please go check out their channels. They're doing really, really good work. I appreciate you guys. Salute. You guys have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching.